Guys, are you ready to go live?
Let's go live.
Let's go live.
Should we move? Oh no.
What is that?
Oh, that actually it did that. That's because it went onto there. I think we need to just turn the volume down on there. Is this volume down? You want it down? Like muted? Oh no, I'm probably want the volume up on that.
For what?
I need the volume up on that.
You don't, the volume on this doesn't matter because the microphone.
Okay, so I just don't want it to ring loud like that.
Yeah, so if you just switch it off to silent or whatever, that should be good.
So do we need to move?
So everything's live now. So guys, see that for a second? Oh, where's the microphone on it? There we go.
I was ready to go and then realized I couldn't put up the live stream, so my apologies.
Test, 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 test. So we're now live on this, both video and sound. Okay. So it's all going to come through here.
Thank you, my friend. Test, test. That's on? Yep. Yeah. All right. Wonderful. I am going to let Swayze just go for it because introducing doesn't feel exactly appropriate, but I do want to let you know that the bathrooms, if you need to go, you're going to go through those doors and just a little jog to your left and straight down the hall there on the right hand side. So just go straight out the doors if you do need to go to the washroom.
Your other left.
I'm just kidding.
So where am I? Up here?
Yeah. Wherever you would like to be.
So, good evening, everyone. My ancestral name is Chawasia, and I also carry Spotwood. My English name is Alice Gus. I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight, taking time out of your busy schedule just to witness what's going to take place tonight. My hands go up, so in other words, I want to thank the United Church for inviting me to be here in their beautiful building. And I know we got close relationship with Karen and Cameron. I was actually baptized in Anglican when I was 22 years old. We had to get baptized before we got married. My husband, my then husband, he was Roman Catholic. So my mom is Anglican. My father is Roman Catholic because he went to the residential school in St. Paul's in North Vancouver. My mother went to St. Michael's up in Alert Bay, and that was Anglican. So what I'm going to do is I just want to do a presentation before I actually start. So I actually have a feather. And I'm just going to read what it says on there. So spiritual feathers, it's a new beginning, a spiritual evolution, inspiration, good fortune, love. And it was made from a lady named Lois. And she also wrote, whether you choose the spirit feather that catches your attention and awakens you, or your loved one selects it for you. It is a gift that will surely enlighten you. Your spirit feather will always remind you that you are loved. So I just want to give this to Karen on behalf of all the United Church. So if you can come on up here, please.
Oh, it's beautiful. Oh my goodness, stunning. Thank you.
Yeah. And I didn't tell anyone, but I brought three little door prizes, so I'm going to leave it to Karen or someone in her church to decide how you guys are going to distribute their door prizes tonight. So I'm going to leave it here by the computer. And another housekeeping before I begin. So here, last minute I decided that I said, gee, I should get these orange ribbons. So what you can do is you can just, if you have a safety pin at home, and if you want to put it on your shirt or your coat or anywhere at home or anywhere you want to put it, but I just put mine on my lanyard because I would forget to put it from one sweater or one coat to another. I am actually wearing my handmade t-shirt to honor my mom and to honor my late father. So my mom went to residential school when she was 5 years old. My dad went when he was 5 years old. And my mom went in 1936 to 1944. My dad went from 1939 to 1947. Because they weren't allowed to go past grade 8. The government says you can't get an education past grade 8. And this one here was gifted to me. Every child matters, and it's got it in the Cree language. I did the drum for the Paralympics and for the Olympics. And my dear friend is sitting here, and her name is Glenn Campbell. And she painted the design that was there. They provided the design, but I didn't have time to do it. So Glenn opened up her heart and she did all the painting. So my hands go up to you. Thank you. So we did one for the Paralympics, and her name was Stephanie Dixon, the chef. I think that's called their title. So anyways, she emailed us, and they were in such awe because obviously they weren't allowed to have any audience or any people out there to cheer them on. But our drum went over there, so I made the drum for the Olympics and then the Paralympics. Glenn helped me get that going with them. And so now they're going to pass it on to the next one, which is going to be in Beijing. And because of that, and then we're on APTN, and then the guy he is a retired cop. or OPP they call it, right, Ontario Police. And he found it in his heart to do a paddle. He called it an orange paddle. And he opened it up to the whole community, and they were selling all the t-shirts and the hoodies, and the proceeds goes to the Ottawa Friendship Centre. So I'm going to sing a song, my great-great-grandmother's song, Hope Hope Che. Min heute anstet Suecia Spakos, Hasquile States, heute Chetia, heute zu großen Behemen, heute zu mehr, heute zu Hachachanen, qui Pie Long. It's a beautiful evening tonight, and I just want to thank you for being here today. So I actually have two presentations. I have two PowerPoints, and the first one, it's more like statistics. It's more like how it is not only across British Columbia or it could be across Canada. So we all know that.
I'm just going to get you keep going. Ignore me.
So we all know that it was not only in Canada, but it was, down the States, and it was in up in the territories. It was over, it was just all over. So anyways, residential schools. So my concept is we are understanding the past, so we're going to find out about the past. We want to know the present, which is actually happening today, and then hopefully to plan for the future. So tonight we are knowing the present. And after you leave here this evening, then we are all together, planning together for the future. So who's you? Okay.
Do you want me to click or do you want to click
Go.
your slides? Okay. And if you would like to take your mask off because you're so distant from everybody,
Okay.
I feel like you can do that.
Now I can breathe.
Off with the mask on is done.
Okay, so what do I hit?
Oh, that's an important part, isn't it? So you should be able to hit this arrow here. And there you go. So just hit that arrow and I'll be right here in case it...
Okay. Okay, so what we have is Port Alberni. We have a house that my great-great-great-grandparent, my mother actually came from the West Coast, what we call it. And what they called is the Ooligan Trail. So what they did is they went there and they go up the river, up the creek, and they go, and then they end up meeting at Wasp Lake. So Wasp Lake is kind of near Alert Bay. And so that's how my great-great-grandmother met her husband. So it went from the West Coast to Alert Bay, which we call Numgees. So my mom's mom, she actually came from Alert Bay. I don't know if you can, it's kind of hard to see. Can you guys see it?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Yep. A little bit.
So So St. Paul's Residential School, the one that my dad went in North Vancouver, was opened in 1898 and it closed in 1959. So it was utilized for 61 years. The one that my mom went to was St. Michael's School. It was opened in 1861 and then it closed in 1930, or what is it? It was open for 123 years.
Oh.
So the last day it actually closed, I believe, was in 1996. And that's not very long ago. So the ones that or not Williams Lake. Where's Kamloops? Is Kamloops up there? Yeah, there he goes. Kamloops. I was 1890 to 1978, so that one was 88 years. And we all know about the 215. So September the 30th, I could email it to Karen. And so what the Kamloops villagers are going to do is they are going to sing at 2:15 to honor the 215 young ones that didn't get to go home. So we'll just kind of just go through it if you can look at it. So these are the ones that were here in British Columbia. Okay, ready to say next? Because I always do it on the computer and someone always clicks it for me.
I can do that if you like.
No, it's okay. Yeah. So the residence school ran from the 1830s to 1996. So thousands of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit were forced to attend. The Royal Proclamation was issued by the British Crown in 1763. The acknowledged Aboriginal land rights as not have been ceded or to purchase by us are reserved to them. 1844. The Bagot Commission releases its report and recommends the establishment of manual labor, schools for Aboriginal children. 1857, there was a Gradual Civilization Act. It requires all the Indian males all over the age of 21 who can speak, read, and write English or French will be enfranchised. Meaning that they must renounce their Indian status and become a British subject. 1867, the Constitution Act, also known as the BNA Act, creates the Dominion of Canada, which includes Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. 1872, the Dominion Lands Act encourages European settlement in the prairie provinces by giving 160 acres of land away to any white man who will build a homestead on the land and cultivate at least 40 acres. So when our First Nations people went to go fight for Canada, they came home and they ignored every single one of those First Nations. But when the non-First Nations people went out to fight and they came home and they recognized them, they gave them land, they treated them like royalty. And they totally ignored all the First Nations people that fought in World War II or even in World War I. My great uncle, Edwin Victor Cook, he died in the World War I, and his son actually fought in World War II. His name was Edwin Victor Cook too. And he passed away, and they're buried over in Europe. At any time, if you guys got any questions, or I can just go through, you guys are more than welcome to say, hey, it's Flacio. Okay, so 1876, the Indian Act is enacted and gives the government exclusive right to create legislation regarding the Indians and the Indian lands. This act identifies who is Indian and established related to legal rights. We weren't allowed to hire lawyers. It was forbidden. If we tried to say, if I wanted to hire lawyer A and lawyer B, the government would say, you are no longer an Indian. That's it. You lost your right. So they were always on top of us, or they swept the rug underneath us all the time. They always wanted to be a step ahead. And it's still happening today. 1879, the Davin Report recommends the creation of a system of industrial schools where children are intentionally separated from their parents to reduce the influence of wigwam. 1885, First Nations Métis fight for recognition of land and treaty rights in Saskatchewan. Louis Riel and the other leaders are hanged for treason. 1885, the amendment to the Indian Act. Traditional Indian ceremonies like potlatches and sun dances are prohibited. 1889, allegations emerge of physical and sexual abuse at Rupert's Land School in Manitoba. 1892, a federal government and certain Christian churches enter into a formal agreement to operate residential schools. 1894, amendment to the Indian Act allows the governor and council to establish industrial or boarding schools for Indian children. 1896, 45 residential schools are operated in Canada. 1906, amendment to the Indian Act. Aboriginal people can be removed from reserves near towns with more than 8,000 inhabitants. 1907, medical inspector for Indian Affairs, Dr. Bryce, reports that health conditions in the residential schools are a national crime. So they did a lot of tests on them. They deliberately starved them. And then they get the doctors come, okay, we're gonna see how, like they were guinea pigs. A lot of them were guinea pigs. Some, my next door neighbor, our elder, she said, all the kids were so hungry, they kept the apple cores and they kept the orange peels. So what did they do? They switch it. They're so hungry, the one who had the apple would eat the orange peels. And the ones that had the apples, or the oranges, they would eat the apple core. And if any of the nuns or the people that were hired in the residential school, if they got, because the kids were so starving, if one of them got caught giving them an apple or orange or what have you, they got fired on the spot. So they were under direct orders from the federal government. 1911, amendment to the Indian Act. So this is their expropriations of our roads and railways. My grandfather, Austin Harry, he lived, so you guys know where Second Narrows Bridge, there's Deep Coal, here's P&E Playland. So right on this side, he was living there before the Second Narrows Bridge. And our men always went out hunting and fishing. My grandfather was out. He was out hunting, and when we come back, he expropriated his land. The railways, and they took our land away. So they did that to a lot. So a lot of our land was being taken away. So I think, a lot of the chiefs, they got together and they signed an amalgamation July 23rd, 1923. 1920, Duncan Campbell Scott, the Deputy Superintendent of the Indian Affairs, make residential school attendance compulsory for children between ages of 7 and 15. My grandfather, my great uncle, they were going to St. Paul's Church in North Vancouver, and they just lived in Capilano. What did they do? They run. They run away from the school. As soon as they get home, the cops are right there. And my great-great-grandmother, she'd be crying. She says, you know what, I'm so sorry, but you have to go back to school. Either that or, they would put my great-great-grandmother, they have to go to prison if they keep the little ones. Okay, so 1927, the amendment to the Indian Act. Soliciting funds for Aboriginal legal claims without permission is made illegal. Okay, I mentioned that already. So in 1960, approximately 10,000 students are attending 60 schools across the country. So here, my mom is the fourth kid from the bottom right side. I didn't finish typing my PowerPoint. Okay, so before Canada Day, they had to celebrate Dominion Day. So every single one of them represented the countries from the Commonwealth. So whether it's Australia, what else can you see? Obviously England. So they had to dress up like that every July 1st. And the principal on the top left, the one with the three-piece suit, my mom said she really liked him because he was really nice to them. He was really nice to her. You know, my mom went to residential school when she was 5 and she didn't get beaten up because she already knew how to speak English because her dad got forced to go to residential school. So when my mom was born, she learned to speak English. Whereas my dad, when he went to St. Paul's, he was speaking Squamish language. So you can imagine the little 5-year-old, the one that goes into kindergarten, he's getting beaten up by the nuns because he was speaking the, Squamish, and they didn't understand. They don't know why. Okay, so this is the pictures of the schools. The top one is St. Michael's School, where my mom went up in Alert Bay, and the bottom one is St. Paul's, and that's kind of close to St. Thomas Aquinas. 1961 amendment to the Indian Act, we were allowed to vote. 1979, roughly 1,200 children are enrolled in the 12 residential schools across Canada. 1980s to the 90s, 11 residential schools are still operating. 1982, the government enacts the Canadian Charter of Rights, a part of the Constitution which protects Canadians from discrimination on 11 grounds. 1986 to 1994, the United Anglican and, I can't say that. Presbyterian Church issue a formal apology for their participation in the residential school system. So you can imagine, the past of what, our parents and our grandparents had to go through. So there's 18 in BC, 25 in Alberta, 20 in Saskatchewan. There's a young boy, so everyone's got those t-shirts, Every Child Matters. So there was this one young boy, he traveled to the 20 residential schools in Saskatchewan. So he traveled maybe, I'm just going to say 2,000 kilometers on bike. He went, so he was using that as a awareness and fundraising. Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and the Yukon. So a total of 143. So at the present, we, the Squamish people, will continue to educate our children of who they are and be proud to be Squamish people. I myself now understand what my parents had to go through, as I didn't know as a child. I am continually to share our language and culture to my children and the community. I am learning the ways of our ancestors, fishing, canoeing, drumming, singing, storytelling, history, all of that. In 1985, I started doing awards night acknowledging our children in their academics. Yes, we want to teach them the balance of our language and culture, but we need to teach them to survive in the mainstream society. So we acknowledge them and boost up their self-esteem, make them feel good of who they are. Our team, we implemented a lot of language and culture. 1996, how many of you guys are here in 1996? Anyone? Awesome. So when I was director of education, I kept going to this principal. I won't say her name. I asked her, I said, this is my dream, this is what I want. I would love for us to have a welcome figure. Because my brother, Colacton, Rick Harry, he's a master carver, and he did lots down the city. I says, well, we should do one here in Squamish. So I went to the principal, and she goes, She wouldn't give me a yes, she wouldn't give me a no. She wouldn't give me an answer. And then 2 years later, we got a brand new principal, and I go, yes, I got someone else too. So I met with her, and I told her, her name was Mark Pelot. And I told her, I says, this is our dream, this is what we want. And she goes, okay, so let's have a meeting. So we had a meeting with late Constance Roca. She was the trustee then. Mark Pillow, myself, and my staff, we met. The next day, the log was delivered at House on Secondary. It wasn't just First Nations people, it wasn't just Squamish Nation, we involved the whole school. Trustees were carving, janitors were carving, teachers, principals, you name it. They were there and they were carving, so it was a community event. Knock on wood, there is absolutely no graffiti on it. You know, that's the beauty of working together as one. And then BC Hydro, they liked what they saw, so they did that too, and same with the Eagle Watch up in Brackendale. So today, present, we all know about the awareness and all that stuff. I won't read it all. So the future. So I got some quotes from Chief Dan George. This is when he talked about Canada when they were celebrating 100 years. Oh Canada, how can I celebrate with you this century, this 100 years? Shall I thank you for the loss of my pride and authority? Even amongst my own people, no, I must forget what is the past and gone. Oh Great Spirit, give me the courage of the olden chiefs. Like the thunderbird of the old, I shall rise again out of the sea. I shall see our young braves and our chiefs sitting in the house of law and government, ruling and being ruled by the knowledge and freedom of our great land. So shall we shatter the barriers of our isolation. So shall the next 100 years be the greatest in the proud history of our tribes and nations. Teaching of our ancestors, parents, and elders will continue to build bridges. Let's not continue to put up barriers, but to knock them down. Teach our neighbors who we are. We Squamish people will continue to teach our children socially, physically, creatively, culturally, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually the ways of our Squamish teachings and traditions, so that we are two world walkers, so we stay strong and be proud to be Squamish, but at the same time we're going to go out and get an education, because that is the teaching tool of today. So go back to the teachings of caring, patience, respecting, and sharing. Teachings of the river to go with the flow. Teachings of the wolf to work as a team. Teachings of our Canada goose, we are going to cooperate. We are going to take turns. The teachings of our Creator, He has gave us 2 eyes to look twice as hard. He gave us 2 ears to listen twice as hard. But He only gave us 1 mouth, so we need to be careful what we say. He gave us 2 arms, 1 to give and 1 to receive. And then I tease, He gave us 2 legs, 1 to kick or be kicked. No, I'm just kidding. So teachings of the 1 mind, 1 body, and 1 spirit, and let's all get in the canoe together and set goals together for the betterment of all of our children. Teachings of the 2-headed sea serpent, teachings of choice. So we have how many legends that revolve around the 2nd biggest monolithic granite rock in the world? And it's shooken up right now, we all know. You know, we can talk about it spiritually or we can talk about it physically. I know a lot that's talked about physically about the hot sun and now it's cold. You know, that's the geological way. So we choose our own path. So future, you guys just take a quick look. Woohoo! Any questions, curiosities? Or you want to wait until I finish the next one? Yeah?
I wonder, why do you have medicine and personal in such large font in that last?
Yeah, it's just how I did it. It's an app on the computer.
Oh, I just didn't know that was significant.
So like I say, my mom went to residential school and we went up there February 17, 18, 2015. There was so much tension in the Alert Bay community. Some say, knock it down. The other ones say, keep it up. But so now you know who won. So when they wanted to knock it down, but they want them to put a plaque up there, let them know what happened in the past. Because if you knock it down, and some people might go up to Alert Bay, and they're not going to see the residential school. So if any of you guys are more curious, you can just go home and Google St. Michael's Residential School, and you can see or find out more about it. So this is a quote from Sir John A. Macdonald. We have been pampering and coaxing the Indians, they called us Indians, just kidding, that we must take a new course. We must vindicate the position of the white man. We must teach the Indians what law is. Speech before the House of Commons, July 6, 1885. The great aim of our legislation has been to do away with the tribal system and assimilate the Indian people in all respects with the other inhabitants of the Dominion as speedily as they are fit to change in 1887. Quote from Reverend Caldwell in Housing. The problem with Indians is one of the morality and religion. They lack the basic fundamentals of civilized, though the spirit which explains their childlike nature and behavior. At school, we strive to turn them into mature Christians who will learn how to behave in the world and surrender their barbaric way of life and their treaty rights, which keep them trapped on their land and in a primitive existence. Only then will the Indian problem in our country will be solved. So prior and after European contact, so the one on the left, obviously there were the big houses, and they were, if you picture, these were the oceans. So those ones, that there is actually Alert Bay longhouses. In Squamish, our longhouses were hidden inside the forest. So if you look at, one of our biggest longhouse was in Jericho Beach. So you guys know where Jericho Beach is, right? And where Lumberman's Arch is now, that village is called Squai. So we had longhouses there. Some of them were well over 1,000 feet. So that's like 2.5 football fields long and 1.5 football fields wide. And again, residential school. So residential school for the boys and the girls established at the mission house. A few girls board at the rectory with Mrs. Hall, the wife of the missionary. 1882 in Alert Bay. 1883 to 1890, the first government grant received for operation of the school. 1890, Indian Agency moved from Fort Rupert to Alert Bay to have a long-term relationship with the school. 1891, the government sets aside 412 acres on Cormorant Island, which is known as Alert Bay. So if you look at Alert Bay from that wall to that wall, halfway in the middle of the island, they gave it to the Numgees. And then the other half is like for the non-First Nations. When I teach in the schools, I always tell the kids, so you know the difference between top sirloin meat and bologna? So they kept the top sirloin of the land and they gave us the bologna. You know what I mean? You see, they have all the waterfronts around the lakes, the rivers, the oceans, the inlet, you name it. They took it and they shoved us aside. Okay. Boys Industrial School opened separate from the Mission Day School. Boarding school for the girls, recognized by Ottawa. 1905, the Boys Industrial School enlarged. A new dormitory built, capacity for 40 boys. 1928, the last year it was used. 43 boys were in residence. So when my When my mom went to residential school, she didn't even know she was going to residential school. Her and her sister, Auntie Betty was 6 years old, my mom was 5 years old. And they hopped in the car and before they were seatbelts, right? So they turned in the back of the car like this and they're looking out the window and they're looking at their baby brother who was only 3 years old and he's chasing. He's chasing the car and he's crying. He goes, "Where are you taking my sisters?" And so my mom never seen him for 2 years because he was only 3 then. 1906, the girls. 1912, New Alert Bay Girls Home. 1922. $1929, this one was the co-ed. So this is the one that my mom went to. So if you look at later on in my presentation, so can you see the foyer? So that's what they were gonna knock down. Now, St. Michael's School opens with 18 TB patients from the residential school. My mom got TB when she was in residential school. She was bedridden for over 2 years. She had to lay in bed for 2 years until her lungs got strong again. And then when her lungs got strong again, and then the doctor had to teach my mom how to walk again because she wasn't using her muscles for 2 years. So once she learned how to walk, and then the doctor says, "Okay, Gwen, you can go home now." My mom cried. I believe my mom was 16. And she goes, "I don't have a home." She goes, "My home was the residential school." And so he says, "Okay, Gwen, you can work here part-time." So my mom was working at Cocolitza. So she was in that Cocolitza hospital over near Chilliwack. And that was specifically for all First Nations kids that had TB. So here we are, feast day on February 17, 2015, and there's my mom right in front. And then there's my daughter, Dominique. So I have 3 kids, and all of them, I took them up to Alert Bay so they can see my mom's side of the culture. They can see the residential school. They can see the big house. They call it big house up there. We call it long house down here. Some people call it smoke house. It just depends who you are. And so they had a feast, and the youth did everything. It was all the youth in the community. Right from the beginning of the ceremony, they had the fire going right from the beginning until right at the end. They had one going inside the longhouse and they had one outside the longhouse. So there's our feast song, and so you can see our youth, they're dancing. And then with the Kwakwaka'wakw people, you know, a lot of Squamish people use the hand drums, but up in the longhouse they have a big, huge log. And then they all got sticks in there. That's how they beat. They were all young ones, which was awesome. So there they are. There's the little guys. And I was a tourist. No, just kidding. I went and took pictures of the killer whale in someone's lawn, and then the world's the tallest totem pole here in BC. So my mom says in the back, I believe that's where they got to play. So these are pics prior to the demolish. This is the side of the residential school. Can you see the priest on the bottom? Underneath the stairs? Yeah, with the black, with the rope, with that. So we're still trying to find out who did it. Or I am, I mean. And those are just my daughter and my niece. And then there's the front of the school. And it was really neat because, I shouldn't say neat, it was very healing for the ones that were students at the residential school, they had a chance and they grabbed rocks and they were letting out their anger. So they were throwing rocks at the school before we did the ceremony. So people were waiting for the speeches, and Chief Alex Nelson was the MC. And here the boys were singing the healing songs, and then we had the Archbishop from the Anglican Church. And there they are singing the healing song. And then so they actually only knocked on the foyer because they were worried about all the asbestos. So they were just carefully just took the porch down. And then Halat Kasa, so that's say goodbye. Yeah.
I wonder why the girls weren't singing.
The girls?
It was just the boys singing the healing
Yeah,
song?
so the boys singing, it's usually the boys that are drumming and singing.
That's the
Yeah.
tradition.
Yeah, so you know what? In our longhouse, the ladies, we don't use the drums. We have clappers. So they're made with red cedar, and we would
Yeah.
clap like this.
Okay.
So traditionally, it's the men that has the drums. But I always say, you know what? I'm happy to pick up the drum. I'm happy to sing songs because we didn't have the opportunity to do it when we were younger. Or actually, well, my dad, he taught us when we were younger. Yeah, any other questions? Curiosities?
I don't
Yeah.
know. What are people saying right now over in, at Totem Hall, when you, in the community? Are people talking about the relationship, reconciliation? Do people feel positive? Is there anything good going on, or are they all thinking it's way too slow?
Yeah. So I think on an individual basis, everyone heals at a different pace.
Mhm.
Some still have a lot of anger in them.
Mhm.
Some of them, they can get up and they can speak. So I can't say, all of Totem Hall is going to, but there are some, I believe, you guys know Charlene Joseph? Charlene Williams? She works at the Cultural Journeys on top of the old Swamps Elementary School. I think she's gonna have a gathering that night down at OCM, because I think they did that on, I can't remember what day they did that on. But anyways, they did the drumming and the singing, and then whoever wants to come, so they open it up to the community too. Yeah. So any other curiosities? A lot to absorb, hey? Yeah.
Can you tell us about the healing that is taking place?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you tell us about the healing that's taking place and what's in place in First Nations to help those in residential schools who suffered abuse, and what healing they are being able to take part in?
So right now, I think there's a lot of people all across the board, they're speaking, right? And it may affect, it affected a lot of the people that were at that ceremony. And so what they do is they would provide like a 1-800 number. But at the same time, our nation, Totem Hall, they're having more language and more culture, more drumming, more singing. So yeah. And for even though my mom went, but my mom is a really strong person. My dad, like I said before, my dad taught us the language and culture, but mom taught us to build a bridge. And that bridge is a two-way street, not a one-way street, not my way or the highway. When I was a director of education when I was 29 years old, I was at a conference in Vancouver. All these First Nations people all across BC, they were fighting, they were arguing. You can feel the tension. We didn't even have lunch. Everyone was so mad. They just argued back and forth like this. And it took one elder to stand up. And he went like this, and he grabbed a pencil. And he went like this. He goes, you know what this represents? A carrot. And you know what else? The government wants us to fight over this carrot. And everybody goes, whoa. It really opened everyone's eyes. And then after that, everyone just settled down. And I believe they were arguing over ka-ching, right? So that's exactly what they were doing. And then, you know what? All across Canada, there are well over 80 distinct languages, and there's over 40 alone in British Columbia. You can imagine the diversity just in BC alone. But BC has the best education system across Canada because they work together. They have what they call the First Nations Education Steering Committee. And the boss of that committee, they involve all of the nations in British Columbia. So they listen. So yeah, you know, I'm not, no disrespect to any of the other nations across Canada. Like I say, everyone heals at their own pace. Okay, there's someone else had a question. Yep.
I'm just heartened at how the ceremonies that you hold for your people help to heal the ceremonies and the rituals. That's
Very powerful.
So important.
Yeah.
So important.
You know, I worked in the downtown east side for 5 years, and I was employment coordinator. So I worked with a lot of people that were borderline homeless. Just one snap of finger, they could be homeless. They could be homeless. And there was this one gentleman, he comes into my office, I'm sitting here, my boss's office is right behind me, and she has the glass, and she has her door was always open. And there's one young man, he comes in, he had 2 garbage bags full, and he comes up to me, and he throws it right in front of me. He was so mad. He says, you know what, Alice, this is all I got to my name. He goes, my slum landlord took everything out of my apartment and he locked it. He goes, this is all I got to my name. That's all he left me. 2 bags of clothes. And he says, well, you know what? I says, this is a brand new day. I says, I'm going to help you. We are going to fax. We are going to email. I'm going to physically give you your resumes, and we are going to go out and we're going to get your resumes out there into the work. The next morning, he came up to me. Oh, he was happier than heck. He says, Alice, he goes, I got a job. He was so happy. What, 24 hours? What a difference it was. And the beauty of our office that I worked in, whenever someone got a job, we would ring the bell. When we ring the bell, everybody in the building, including our boss, whoever, we all hoot and holler and whistle, yeah! And it just totally builds up their self-esteem, and they just feel so happy. And a lot of times we would remove as many barriers that we can. Simple things like a comb, a toothbrush, clothes, work boots, you name it. We would provide it. Our office, we provided it to them to make it easier for them to find a job. So that really opened my eyes. So that's why we end up having a Christmas dinner for the homeless people here in Squamish. Last year would have been our 13th annual, but because of COVID, we weren't allowed to. We just did little gift baskets, and we brought it to under one roof. Yeah. So we did that, and then we did it again for. I still had a little bit money left over, so we did it for Valentine's Day too. So don't know how it's going to be this year. It depends on the situation is going to be. Yes, are there any other questions, curiosities? Yeah?
Alice, do you have a vision for the future? Can you tell us what your vision is 20 years from now, and how we live together, and how, is there still an Indian Act at that time? I have difficulty projecting the future and seeing how we're going to get over what we've got now and where we're going to end up.
Yeah, I think as an individual, we're just going to get stronger, you know, through the teachings of our language and our culture, and within our community, building self-esteem, making our young ones feel good of who they are. But we have no control of the government. You guys remember Jody Wilson?
Yeah.
Remember she challenged the Prime Minister. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Then what did he do? You're gone. But guess what? The next election, she got elected back in again. So I'm happy that our leaders don't want to sign a treaty. Back in 300, 500 years ago, they were forced to sign a treaty. The language barrier was one, and they took advantage of it. When my great-great-grandparents lived in a village called Snout, which you guys now know as False Creek, they told them, you guys got 5 minutes to get out. They packed whatever they can, and they went. They only walked 50 yards, and they turned around, and what did they see? They lit up their longhouse. They lit up their home. Not even 50 yards down more, what were they doing? They were selling them alcohol. Okay, this is, you know, we're gonna, you know how they, I'm not gonna go deep into that. But, so, you know, I worked for a nation, and it was really sad, you know, disheartening for me, because the chief of that community actually signed a treaty today, in these days, the present day. So they are no longer considered First Nations people. They no longer have a status card. They no longer have the benefits. They gave up all their rights. So now they pay land taxes, and they pay like everything. And their reserve that they live on, the majority of them is non-First Nations people living on their reserve, because their own community can't even afford to pay rent. So it was really hard. It's like the rich get richer and the poor gets poorer. Same concept. So, you know, what our leaders, you know, I don't know if any of you guys know Chief Joe Mathias. He fought really hard for our people, and our leaders, you know, like Chief Bill Williams and Chief Gibby Jacob and Philip Joe, and all of them, you know, they worked really hard. And now we have our young ones today. Okay, yeah, Glenn?
I just wanted to respond to Brian's question. And, you know, I know most of you in the room, and I know you're all very well-read people, and I would highly suggest that you read the Truth and Reconciliation Act and the 94 calls to action, and then you may have an idea of what the future is. I think it includes all of us, that we must all really respect and go with these 94 calls to action.
Yeah, so education awareness, yeah.
There's also a free course, online course through the University of Alberta that everyone can go online and take. I think it's 21 hours in length, that speaks to a number of the topics that you are speaking about tonight, and gives further insight and education and knowledge.
Awesome. Yeah, so you know, you will have a lot of people out there, oh no, not you guys again. Or you know what I mean? You know, that's their attitude, but we can't force them. We can't force them to do what they want to do, so they choose who they want to be, right? Okay.
I belong to a group that meets weekly, and we study, one of the actions in today's, I think it was number 28, where law students will be required to study the Indian Act, and I can't say word for word what it is, but it's the training of lawyers so that they have the history and know what's happening at the present so that they can change the future. Education, medical, and law are three of the most important areas where we need to be educated.
Yeah, so I can relate it, to one family. So you have your home. I don't know how big your front yard is or your backyard. So can you imagine someone coming in and taking all of your front yard and someone taking your backyard, right? And we have no control over it. And because the government says this, you're allowed to have how many acres of land if you come to Canada. You're allowed to do this, you're allowed to do that, but we were always silenced, right? We had no right, nothing. So I thank Glenn for reminding me about the TNR report. Because even the media today, yes, they talked about the 215, but now there's well over 6,000. And the media is not even talking about it. No one. The government's not. The media's not. It's kind of disheartening, but like I say, we can't force them to feel how they feel, how they react. That's their choice, right? We choose the difference between the good and the bad. That's our choice. Awesome.
I'm curious because I've had several people ask me, locally, what is happening on September 30th? Are there things that we could attend, that we could be at so that we can honor?
Yeah, I believe Charlene Joseph, she's going to have a gathering probably at OCM Park again. So if I can find the link, I'll send it to you, then you can share it with,
It tells you all about it in the Chief today, in the newspaper, local newspaper.
Well, there you go. I have not read the Chief yet today. Excellent. Well, that's helpful. Thank you.
And
so yes, it's there from 1 till 3.
Okay.
At the park.
Yeah, and then because I'm my own boss, right? I have my own business. So I said to myself, I am not going to work September the 30th because I want to witness, I want to be part of it. And guess what? My brother hired me to be the speaker. So he's unveiling a pole, if any of you guys are interested, at Wesley, sorry if I say this wrong, Wesley St. Andrew's United Church on Burrard Street.
Oh.
That's at 2 o'clock. And at 2:15, we are all going to drum and sing. Then after that, we're going to do the work. We're going to get Eugene Harry. He's going to bless the poles. And they actually have a plaque. And it is so old, and it's from the church in Kukulitsa. And that young man that's going to be speaking, they're going to blanket my mom. And they're going to have, we're kind of going to do the Squamish traditional way, but not pure Squamish way. We're just going to kind of do the teachings of it. And then, so we're going to have the 4 speakers, 2 from the church and 2 First Nations. And then after that, we're going to open the floor. My mom's going to have the opportunity to speak. And Sam George. I don't know if any of you guys, if you guys want to go Google Sam George, he did a lot of speaking on residential school too, but I believe he went really deep. I try not to go that deep. I only just want to kind of surface it a little bit, just kind of so you guys get a little taste of it. Yeah. Yeah?
What would you like us to do? How can we help?
Educate. Awareness. Even things like wearing these, right? So people, it can be a conversation starter. You know, some people out there may not have social media. You know what I mean? And then if you wear it, and then they'll say, "Oh, what is that for?" You know, because we all know pink is for for breast cancer, right? And I don't know all the other colors, but they have specific colors. So the young lady, the reason why, you guys heard about the orange T-shirt, right? How it came to be? Yeah?
Share the story.
No?
Share the
Okay,
story.
so when she was 5 years old, she went to residential school and she was so happy. And so her mom bought her a brand new orange shirt. And she went to residential school. The first day, they stripped her from it and they put her on their uniforms. And she said, "I never, ever, ever saw my orange shirt again." So that's why that orange T-shirt came to be. And then the federal government said they are now going to call it Truth and Reconciliation Day, which is awesome. So thankful for Stephen Harper for acknowledging it and apologizing all across Canada. So leadership, and also everyone all across the board, how to help is probably awareness, educate. Like I say, I can't force you to, I'm not going to force you to do anything. It's what you have in your heart of what you want to do. After tonight, you may do stuff, and after tonight, okay, that's okay. It's your choice. Awesome. So I'm just going to close it off then. So this song was composed from my great-great-grandmother, Mary Capilano. So the first song was the husband, and this is the wife, and this is my great-great-grandmother. And she lived to be 106 years old. She was still pulling in the canoe because that was our way of transportation. And in the fire in 1888, all of Vancouver went on fire, and Vancouver back in the day was from Burrard Street to Stanley Park. So almost all the buildings burnt down. I think maybe 2 or 3 survived. So if any of you guys hear of, what's it called? It's on Alma Street in 4th. It's run by a non-profit, Native Brothers and Sisters. It is, Hastings Mill. Hastings Mill. It's a little miniature version of the Museum of Anthropology. That was funny. I love going there when I teach culture and I take my students to MOA. And the lady didn't know I was sitting behind the sheet. Okay, so here we go. So the paddle song. else that says, Hochtons Guanchus Matemitsuk, Horchus Chatsiam, Horchus Hortons Behan, Horchus Tatien Stop, Ta Kakakana, Ta Eil, to Scott Mashov Ukhamail, to Eil, to Noya, Hochtons Guanchus Matemitsuk, Tzitsab. It's good in my heart that you all have come here tonight. And again, I just want to thank the Squamish United Church. I want to thank Karen for inviting me to your guys' beautiful home here tonight to allow me to share a little bit of the past, a little bit of the history. Because when I was a little girl, I did not know anything about my mom or my dad going to residential school because my mom and dad never shared it. And my dad, when he would share, the only time my dad would talk about the residential school when he was under the influence of alcohol. And my dad would cry and he would speak the language and he would be just going and I said, oh my God, there's a big huge lump in my throat. And I'm wondering what my dad is saying, but I don't understand him because he was speaking the Squamish language. So yes, we learned when we were 5 years old how to speak the language. But when we went into the public school system, we never spoke the language. So it was kind of like in the back burner of my brain. And then when I graduated high school, that's when I really wanted to learn the language and the culture. That's when I really wanted to know the language. So me and my dad, I would sit with my dad and the book was probably about that thick and we categorized it just like in a dictionary from A to Z. We had no Z's in our language and we had no Q's in our language. Our language was very guttural. A lot of the back of our throat it's almost like you're spitting underneath your tongue at the same time. You guys want to try it? So that's a lot of our language. And the only English word I can say, can you guys say yuck? Yuck. Yuck. See how you use in the back of your throat? So that's how the Squamish language is very guttural. And then even when I went to college, my very first assignment, I did it in communications and I talked about IR24, what they now, we know it as Stotmas. And Stotmas is one of the oldest villages. Awesome. So, I don't know how you want to do the door prizes. I have a cedar bark, so this can be used as a bookmarker, and also 2 little wool weaving, and these can be used as bookmarkers, or if you want, you can just put it as a wristband. So, I don't know how you want to do that.
I don't know how I want to do that either. I don't know, we could have while I think about how we do that, let me take a moment to say thank you for coming and teaching us and being here. Whenever you talk about Gwen or about Ma, as I hear most commonly, you talk about her as a bridge builder. And that is what I have experienced with you every step of the way. So thank you for also being willing to come into a united church and teach us what we need to learn and what we need to know. And so you have this gift you gave me. It says new beginnings, spiritual evolution, divinity, inspiration, good fortune, love. Every time we are in an experience or work together, that's what I experienced from you. And thank you for being willing to bridge build and be welcoming all of us and teach us and educate us. We have so much to learn. Grace has a bit of a gift for you. This is from the Squamish United Church Board. And Grace, you can say who made the bowl, and then I'll kind of explain the symbol a little bit.
Okay, and then I have 2 little stories that I'd like to just... Sorry, I'll take this opportunity. The bridge builder, before the bowl actually was is by Kay Austin, a potter in our community. That's lovely, I think, and I hope that Carl will explain the symbolism. But let me just tell you that I was an educator in this district for a long time, and I worked with Gwen Harry, a quality lady. I get choked up just thinking about it, but she was a bridge builder. Just a lovely, lovely lady. And the other thing that I was just going to say was, when I was a little girl, I had a Scottish grandmother, and she lived in North Vancouver, and she was a great gardener. And she was very good friends with a number of the ladies in the North Van, on the North Van Reserve. And my grandma grew plants, and they made bowls and baskets, and I have a lovely collection that were by them. So Karin's going to tell the story.
So in our tradition, the bowl is a symbol of a reminder of the washing of the feet. It's a symbol of humility and healing. And so we wanted to offer you a bowl as a symbol of humility and healing from our church community.
Awesome.
You also, some of you may be wondering about this. This is a fundraiser also, and so Swayze and I have talked about where shall the funds go and how shall you have heard so much of what she's talked about of the education that she is doing, as well as other leaders in the Squamish community. So any funds that are raised this evening will go straight towards local Indigenous education, and that's again a decision that the Squamish United Church Board wanted to do something because of the United Church's involvement in residential schools, and wanted to do something that impacted our local community in a significant way. So our board has already chosen to donate $2,000. Which in fact is 10% of what we received from government funds in the COVID era. So we're taking, that's like in our tradition, it's like a tithe, and we're offering that. But we also are taking more donations. You can give e-transfer at givings@SquamishUnitedChurch.org, and if you all received an email today, you will have received that. So that's an e-transfer. There's also a donation box there, and I assure you any of the donations will go straight, nothing goes to the church, or it goes straight to education. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember when I was 17 years old, and my grade 1 teacher, Mrs. Marchant, she saw potential, and she wanted me to speak in front of a panel at Brackendale Art Galleries. And that's what I talked about, the residential school, but I didn't have the strength. And I just bawled my eyes out. Because as soon as I said, my dad got beat up by the nun, then I started bawling my eyes out. And then the speaker behind me, she goes, "Oh, way to go, Alice." She goes, "Now I've got a big lump in my throat." She says, I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "That's just how I felt," right? And then the teacher, she said, "It's okay, Alice, it's okay, you're just speaking from your heart." She says, I goes, "Yeah." So tonight you probably would have heard a little bit of crack in my voice, but I forced myself. I just wanted to be the speaker. But deep down in my heart, it did affect us as our family. I had 5 brothers, 1 sister, and we grew up in a loving family. We did everything as a team. We picked berries as a team. We did the fish as a team. We had 9 people in the house with 1 bathroom. Can you imagine that? Today I live in a house that has 3 bathrooms, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, awesome. So I'm doing another one on this Monday coming up. So if you guys want to pass this on to any of your family or your friends, you can go Google Museum of North Vancouver. So I'm a part-time worker. I work there Mondays and Fridays, and we implement a lot of language and culture into the museum. So we're doing legends, we are doing language. I'm teaching the staff language. Every Tuesday, I teach them a couple of new words. And then my boss actually reports it to, you know, the commissioners. I guess like the trustees of the school board, eh? So, you know, so there's always a lot of communication, and so we're doing a lot of, I actually did mock tours. So I don't know if any of you guys are interested. I'm doing one at 1 o'clock this Friday at the new Museum of North Vancouver, and it's on Esplanade. And if you are interested, if you can email, since you have her email, Karen, just let her know, because my boss, my CEO, trying to think of he really wanted to hear me, because I did it twice already, and I did it last Friday and the Friday before.
So, and I got to go to your first mock tour at the Museum of North, so it's Minova, Museum of North Vancouver on Esplanade. It is a new little gem, and the tour was amazing. And so I really recommend, if anybody does have the time, to be able to go. I learned so much, but it will also be open. So it's opening soon. Is it open? It's not.
Yeah, it's going to be in the fall. We're just having problems with the heating and the air conditioning.
Can't imagine tech problems.
Because we don't want it to hurt our artifacts, right? So we need to have a specific temperature, but because it's like this, so we're the engineers or whatever you call them, the workers, they're trying to figure it out inside the whole building. So once that's done, and then we're ready to go.
But if you can get on one of her like specialty tours, it's pretty. You get to ask a lot more questions. That's pretty fun.
Awesome.
Awesome. So you have these gifts. Have you thought of how we're going to give them?
No, I put it in your hands.
Oh, okay. So I know if you have been in Squamish long, you've maybe seen Swayze do a welcome song that she usually does. And so this is a little quiz. I wonder if you can tell me the names of the 3 different characters, and you'll get extra points if you can get up and dance one of them. Anybody? Huh?
It's a whale
Yes.
and an eagle and a bear.
And a wolf.
Okay, so can anybody give us the Indigenous name? Captain. Oh, you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Remember I said my name is Suecia, and I also carry
Eagle.
Oh.
That's all right. That's come on. See? And this is a cedar?
Yeah.
Cedar bark weaving. And what's the symbolism of a cedar bark weaving?
Cedar is known as the tree of life. We utilize cedar from the day we are born to the day that we die. And we utilize it for transportation, we use it for homes, we use it for tools, and the list goes on and on.
Oh, all right. One more. There's the, can you give it a hint?
Let me see. How many villages are in Squamish? Livable.
6.
Put up your hand and
3.
3. And
Isn't it in the teens? Isn't it like there's 18 or 19 different villages?
18, 19.
Did Vicky have it at 6?
Yeah.
6?
6.
All right, I'm giving it to somebody else because you can share yours.
Okay, another question. According to the world, the rock is the chief, and how big is it?
2,085 feet.
What
compared to
Yeah, all across, around the world. How
around
big
the
is it?
world, compared to around the world.
Second, who said second?
I could Pam right here, really quick off the bat.
Sorry. The priest over there said, so I better. I didn't say a word, you didn't say a word.
Oh, Dan.
Congratulations, Ann.
So who knows where the biggest one is? Anyone? Gibraltar, near Spain.
So, thank you. And thank you. Why do we do this? I'd love for you to I love hearing that. Why do we do this?
Yeah, so you know in Hawaii they do it with words. They say aloha, it means hello and goodbye, but Squamish Nation we use gesture, and they have put our hands up like this. So it's kind of like welcome to our territory, and when you leave we say thank you, hoichuk, thank you, come back again. So if you guys will see welcome figures, there's one at Ambleside. You guys see the one at Ambleside by Park Royal. And there is one, where's the other one? There's one at Chiakama Center, or actually that's a pole. Chief Bill Williams, I think he did one 70 miles north of Squamish to mark that Squamish Nation territory, and it's a welcome figure. So it's way up in the mountains. And we actually did the drumming and the singing and the ceremony part, and someone took a picture, and you wouldn't believe when someone took a picture, they got it. This is developed in the old days. Remember when you had to bring it to a store and you get it developed? There's all of our ancestors' faces were in the picture. All in the tree, and they were looking at us. And the person that took the picture gifted it to my mom. Yeah. So, awesome. Woohoo. Yeah.
So we're going to be a little bit stricter with our protocol, so everyone stays safe. So if you can remain seated, and then the ushers will actually usher you out.
Should you put the donation box at the back?
There's a donation box at the back, and there's a donation box at the front. So you can go to either donation box. And if you have any, you're not sure how to donate, or you have any more questions, feel free to contact us.
That was great. That was so good.
This way? Okay.
Would you like to go? Okay, thank you. I know.
You're okay with
Yeah, I think it's actually a good idea.